Okay, so we've got the same drum loop going here, right? No problem. Now, let's add our simple delay onto this bad boy. So I've got a simple delay here, and I just put the default on here. So let's walk through our settings really quick. We know what a simple delay is going to do, right? Because it's right in the name. It's a delay, and it's a fairly simple one. That's why we call it a simple delay. So it's going to add a delay to it. Now, the most important thing to find when you're looking at a delay effect is the dry-wet mix, right? Other than, I guess, the time amount of the delay is important too. But the dry-wet mix is easily misunderstood. So here's what this means. It's at 50% right now. All the way to the left is dry. That means all we're going to hear is the dry signal. The dry signal is with no effect on it. So right now, even though the delay is on, I'm not going to hear it, right? No delay, because we're only hearing dry. All the way wet means we're not going to hear the dry signal at all. Now, let's think about that for a second. What that means is that our initial signal, we're not going to hear it. We're only going to hear the delay of that signal. Which means if I set, so right here I have a setting for the delay time of the left channel and the right channel. If I set them to be the same, and then I launch that clip, it sounds the same, right? The only difference is that it started a little bit later, right? You heard me start it, and then it comes in. So here, I'm going to start it right now, right? It's late because we're not hearing the initial. We're only hearing the delay. So that's weird. That is often not what we want to do, but it is also the exact correct thing to do in some situations. So for our situation right now, I'm going to walk you through that other situation in just a second. But for our situation right now, where we've got this delay on a track, we want to hear some dry and some wet. And we might want to hear more of the initial and have the delayed sound be kind of quiet. That would be somewhere around here, right? Now we've just got a little echo of it. Or we might want to hear a lot of it. Or just straight up right in the middle. So watch out for that dry-wet mix. Now I'm going to talk about the case where we want it all the way wet in just a second. I'll get to that in a minute, but let me walk through the timing that we have here. So what we have here is number of 16th notes after the beat. So 1 16th note later, 2 16th notes later, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 16. Those are our options. So 1 16th note later is going to be a single 16th delay, which is really quick. Right? It's da-da-da, really right after the other. 2 16th notes, it's going to be an 8th note. 3 is going to be a dotted 8th note. 4 is going to be a quarter note. So if you want something that kind of feels like it's got a little shuffle to it, a little off the beat stuff, you want probably 1 or 3. Because 2 is going to be an 8th note and 4 is going to be a quarter note. We can also hit the sync button and just dial in milliseconds if we want. Now we have control for left and right channel independently, which can be fun. Let's do 2 and 3. Right, so the left and right channel are separate. If we want to simplify our life, we can hit this link button, and now left and right are always the same. It doesn't even give me choices for the right channel. It's basically the right channel is muted because it's not muted, that's the wrong word. It's disabled because the left and right channel are going to be the same. And then we have our dry-wet mix. Now, we also have feedback. You can think about feedback as running the delay signal back into the delay signal. So it's going to get delayed more and more and more and more and more as it goes back. So let's do something relatively simple. Let's set it to 2 16th notes, so an 8th note, left and right linked. My dry-wet mix 50%, and then I'm going to turn up the feedback kind of a lot. So it's like building on itself because the feedback or the delayed signal is being delayed again and again and again and again. Right? If you do it 100% and then just, oh, actually, if you do it 100%, it's going to feed back 100% every time. It's going to get louder and louder and louder, and then eventually your computer's going to explode, which is why it won't let us go to 100%. It needs to make each loop through the feedback a tiny bit quieter so that it doesn't build on itself. But this will be a lot. So feedback can be fun to play with. It can also be dangerous and tricky. Okay, now let me tell you about, so that's the simple delay effect. Now let me tell you about a case where you'd want the wet mix all the way up. Oftentimes, with time-based effects, what we do is we don't put them right on the channel here. We put them on a bus right here. So this is a send over into these two channels. Okay, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to get rid of this channel, or I'm going to get rid of this effect. So now I have my normal drum beat with nothing on it. Now, by default, Ableton 9 gives you a delay, a simple delay on effect send B. So all I have to do is turn this up, and then I'm sending to this channel. So let me just mute it so I can show you what's happening here. So by turning this up, I'm sending the signal out to the output, but also to here, right? And on this B, I have a simple delay. So a lot of the time, this is just a better way to organize our sound. So if I turn this on, I want, in this case, because I'm sending the signal over there, I want this dry wet mix all the way up because I'm getting the dry from the track here. So here, I want only wet. Because what that means is that this volume right here for my send, this is now essentially my dry wet mix, right? I turn it all the way up, I get a lot of wet. I turn it all the way down, I get only dry. Another benefit to doing this is that if I have a ton of different tracks and a ton of different clips on each track, I want to be sure they all have the same delay. I just do that. Now they all have the same delay, and I don't have to go in and futz with the delay. Everything's going to be in sync. It's not going to get too muddy. Now, the biggest reason for doing this is because it keeps our dry signal nice and crisp. It doesn't get muddied up by the wet signal because we still have that dry coming right through here without any alterations to it. So that's a case where you'd want to do that. And so you can always put an effect on a send here. You can always make a new send, insert return track. That's what you'd want to do, and make one just like that. So just control click somewhere, insert return track. And now return C is here, and I have a C knob that just came up here. If I delete that, my return goes away. By default, you're going to have a reverb on A and a delay on B. You can get rid of those if you want. But they're there. So if you just crank up B, you've got a simple delay happening. Cool? So, and you can add more to B if you want. You can make a big custom effect here. You can do whatever you want. So those are cases where you'd want the dry wet mix all the way up on the send there and the return track. Great. Let's look at another one.